Hey everyone, welcome. Jenny Wise here from WiseMind Soul Warrior. I am super excited and honored to have Camey with us today. She is one of our WiseMind Soul Warrior students. She also is a mentor for us and she works on the team. So I am super excited to introduce her. And Camey, if you want to take a moment to share how we connected and also what brought you to the training and what brought you to yoga.
Yeah, so I have actually been practicing yoga for a while. I started maybe about 10 years ago. I kind of did it on and off, but I never felt a strong connection to it because I was just kind of going to classes at the studio. And so it was just kind of inconsistent. And I also work as a virtual assistant, helping online entrepreneurs and coaches. And that's how I found Jenny in a Facebook group. And we started connecting because I was going to do some work for her. I still do, but at the time we were talking about it. And then I noticed that her yoga training program was different because it just had so much more than, I guess from the classes I was going to, I didn't really see any strategy or improvement in what I was looking for, which would be my anxiety, and sometimes feeling depressed and just having this really loud inner critic voice, which tells me a lot that I'm not good enough. And I didn't really find that relaxation or I was actually kind of more nervous in class. So I noticed on Jenny's website that she taught all of these different strategies and healing modalities along with yoga, and also that it was centered on neuroscience. And I'm kind of a big nerd and I love neuroscience. And I was just so impressed with it. I was like, wow, this is really cool. Cause I'm also studying a little bit of this while I'm in school. So it just kind of all came together and I was able to attend the retreat, which I'll talk about later. But that's how, we kind of got started. I think on our call where we were going to talk about work I was going to do, we started talking about the program too.
I know it is like you've heard me talk about this with the other ladies, and I will continue to talk about it because I'm a firm believer in the universe and God, putting all these dots together and connecting all the people that are in the group and all the people that are in the training right now. So of all the chances, right? Because I don't make, just like we were talking to Carrie yesterday, that I don't do that many IG lives, right? I do a lot more Facebook lives, but not as many IG lives. And that's how we connected. And then I don't post in Facebook groups that often either. And just the fact that you saw my post, and then the fact that you already had started your yoga journey and you were looking to go deeper and you weren't kind of getting everything that you were looking for in the yoga studio classes that you were taking in New York City. So, and then, like you said, layering on the neuroscience and the evidence-based with kind of layering what we call soul work, that kind of spirituality and science, mixed together. Little did we know that was the perfect combination for you and what you needed for your healing journey and to go deeper into your yoga practice. So here we are.
Exactly.
So why don't we start with maybe talking a little bit about the retreat, the Asheville retreat, and what you felt like you let go of there, and kind of the experience with the detox and healing methods and the vegan food, and just kind of in general fire transformation. Share your experience of what that was like when we got together in Asheville last summer.
Sure. Yeah, it was a really, really awesome experience. I'd always wanted to go to a retreat, like a healing kind of retreat, just be outside in nature, meet other people. I'd never gone on one before. And I remember one of the biggest things when Jenny and I first spoke about the yoga teacher training was I really, at that point, was craving something at least hybrid, because I had not seen anybody in so long in person. And I just could not do another Zoom training. I did not want to do my yoga teacher training on Zoom. I was well, not all on Zoom. I was all zoomed out at that point.
Right.
Just working from home, being on Zoom, and also my daughter's classes were all on Zoom, and it was just a lot. So I was so excited to just get away and go
Mhm.
somewhere and meet people. And it was um it was a really cool experience. The energy was really awesome in the room where we practiced yoga, where we had met every day early in the morning. And it was just a cool experience because like we got to be around other people who were kind of looking for the same thing, even though I didn't know it. Like I'd gotten there and I'm usually like pretty friendly. I'll say hi to everybody. And I guess my classes or like meetings here in New York or in the city were like, we didn't really connect with the other people in class.
Mhm.
So I was kind of nervous, like to share a lot. I was just like, okay, let me just see how this goes. I'm just going to um, do some of the yoga sequences and, what maybe I'll share a little bit because I don't like talking about myself too much. But then I noticed that as soon as like the other ladies started sharing about why they were there and why they wanted to change, what they wanted to transform, or where they were looking for healing, I really
Mhm.
connected with them. And honestly, like I was like crying by the time like it as we were going around the room. It was just so like it didn't even get to my turn yet, and I was like already crying because I was like, wow, I could relate to that so much, like that, because here I am looking at all these ladies and they're like so beautiful, and you would think like, oh yeah, they've got everything together, and they were once they started talking, I was like, wow, like I didn't feel like as alone anymore in my
Mhm.
struggles or why I was there or why I wanted to originally join a program like this to work on some things that I'm still working towards, but I definitely feel a big improvement. um, so the food was really awesome. It was all vegan food, and by I would say like the second day my body was just like craving sugar. Like I was like, this is crazy, because I always like, I guess I didn't realize I have a lot of sugar in my diet, so I noticed that like right away.
Mhm.
And we learned about Ayurveda, which was awesome. And I've actually looked into that before, but I just didn't have the same guidance. So
Mhm.
that was great. And just the practicing yoga was really good too, because everything kind of tied together. So like all the flows that we did were all connected with the theme of the day and like the healing that we were working on. It was all connected. It was really awesome. All the ladies formed a bond, and we all became friends, even if we didn't know each other before. Like right away, it was like instant. Like I have a new friend now. It was really cool.
Um, well, I'm so glad that we were able to run the retreat, first of all, because I didn't know, with everything happening in the world last year and this year, that we would be able to run it. So I'm very grateful that when I planned all this in January of 2021, that we were actually able to run the retreats. So that's the first thing. And then to just like sit back and watch you guys. I mean, that's the thing about yoga teacher training, but especially this style of training, because it's more of a yoga psychology, yoga therapy, somatic mind body yoga therapy. It's meant to have that kind of sharing and cathartic therapeutic type style, almost more like a group coaching slash group therapy type environment. And it's meant to be like that because that's been part of my journey, right, with my teacher training, but also with my own group therapy and the other experiences that I've had along the way in my own healing journey. And I have integrated that all in with what I teach you guys. And when I put you through an immersion like that, it's me blending all these different modalities and experiences and things that have worked for me. And I'm sharing that all with you. So, like, for example, the first day we did the Manipura, we did the power, right? The power center. And the theme
Yeah,
around that class, the Sankalpa, the intention was self worth, self love, unconditional love, self confidence, letting go of the inner critic voice. I'm getting goosebumps just talking about it. And so that is what the meditation, the mantras were around. I don't know if you
yeah,
remember the song that we sang. I release control, I
yeah.
let go to the flow of the love that will heal me. Right. So that was kind of the introduction and what I do in a lot of the immersions, because that's kind of the overall theme, is that self-love. And it's also releasing, right? Letting go of the samskara patterns that aren't serving you, right? Like the perfectionism, the inner mean girl, right? And we all shared that when we read our letter at the Fire Transformation in Asheville, and we let that go. And you stepped up just like everybody else. Carrie and I were talking about this yesterday, that every single person stepped up and read their letter, which
right.
was absolutely amazing.
Supposed to, right? Yeah, we were just going to burn them, I think, in the fire. And then it's like you could share if you wanted to.
Right.
And then I just felt like, yeah, okay, I want to share now. Like at first I wasn't going to, but then I was like, yes,
and
now I want to
share. And I certainly was not going to make that required, right? So
yeah.
anytime anybody is sharing, it is always about their comfort level with what they feel comfortable sharing. So I would never want to force on anybody. They have to be ready to share. It's just an invitation, you know, for people to share, if that makes sense. Yeah. So take a moment to, speaking of sharing, as far as different patterns and different practices that you've seen, as far as whether it's letting go of the inner critic voice, whether you might be letting go of like workaholic patterns or perfectionism, or your loud inner critic, or burnout, or it could be dealing with certain difficult emotions. Or could it be more of a mindfulness or a meditation practice or breath work? Like, what are some things that are actual patterns that you have found starting to change and transform, but then also some life skills that you find yourself using on a daily basis?
Yeah. So when I was at the retreat, and I kind of like half joke about this, that like I pretty much have everything, like the inner critic voice, like perfectionism, some, because they kind of stem from each other. I think like just not feeling good enough means, okay, now I need to do this work. It has to be perfect so I can prove myself. And to me, they're all related. So maybe some are stronger than others. A big one for me that I felt like really was affecting where I was going in business and in life was the victim mentality. I chose that one because I felt like until I could let go of saying like, well, this is happening to me because this happened to me in the past, I couldn't move forward. So I was kind of always giving that situation more power than I had. So that's what I released in the Fire of Transformation. And I always go back to that. Actually, I remember because we had this like really cool sword, and like it was just really like just a really powerful moment. And even in like the yoga flows too, we did these like warrior poses where you just felt like, okay, I'm strong. I can overcome this. Like I like don't, it's easy to play the victim. Like that's probably like the easiest thing you could do. Just like blame your circumstances on something that happened to you or on somebody else. But once, you know, you take that power back, it gets transferred back to you. If you're leaving it with that person or situation, they're always going to have power over you. So you're not going to be able to make those changes. Right. So I always remember that. And I go back to that when I'm feeling like that's something that I see myself doing a lot, where I'll just be like, oh, if only this, or, and then I'm like, wait a minute. No, you know, and I'll like snap back to like that moment and just remember like, no, I'm not a victim. You know, I could do this. And so that was really powerful for me. And like, I've always kind of struggled with anxiety. I've tried all different types of ways to help, and including talk therapy, which is another thing it's great, but sometimes you need that whole like, or most of the time, that somatic experience, like for the results to actually work, or to actually get results, because everything, like if it's just in your head and you know, mantras are great and mindset work is great, but you have to like do it along with moving your body or incorporating that. And for me, it was about like just having a lot of trauma built up in the body and just releasing that trauma and getting it out. And that's where the, you know, that whole mind body connection comes in. So one thing that I really like to do that always brings me back to like myself is the alternate nostril breathing.
Mm-hmm.
And I think it's just because it has that like tactile effect too. Like you could put like you're placing your hands like by your nose or on your face to like do switch nostrils. So like that really helps just bring me back to the present moment and ground in that moment because I'm not thinking of anything else. Like I tried other breath work before, and I just think that's what I was missing was like that one thing that really helps me when I'm anxious, because I have to concentrate on that. And that's really been the most helpful for me.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and yeah, those were like some of the biggest takeaways that I had, just also that like there were so many other women who also had something happen to them. And I think they were blaming themselves for what happened and letting that
Mm-hmm.
kind of slow down their healing. Right. So we all kind of realize that together and
Right.
just take power back over the situation.
Yeah. And you know this for anybody else out there who's watching this or who watches the replay, that we are very much about empowerment, right? And that giving women the power, that they have the power, right, to choose, right? Like you said, victimhood or victor, you know, I'm either a victim or a victor, and that I can choose my thoughts, I can choose my emotions, I can choose my behavior, I can choose how I respond to any situation, that I have that power. And I also choose when I give that power away, right? And so I love that you brought that up because that is a huge overarching theme and mission. And the same goes for holistic mental health and holistic healing. That now there are exceptions to this, right? So when I say this, I'm not talking about somebody who may have severe anxiety or severe depression or bipolar or some of these other things. So I'm not talking about that category. I'm talking about someone who might have a lower grade depression or anxiety, that these types of modalities can significantly reduce their symptoms. And there is a component, again, I'm talking about this lower grade depression and anxiety that I personally have dealt with in the past for years, that there is a component of the victimhood mentality that you're allowing yourself to stay in that state of mind, if that makes sense, that you are kind of like, it feels good to feel bad, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
You can be in that like lower vibration of like anger or shame or guilt or anger or apathy with, being lethargic. So the point is, there are exceptions to this, right? But I'm talking about from my own personal experience, looking back and reflecting, that there was a component of that there were things that I needed to heal. And there were absolutely trauma, family of origin trauma, things that were passed down that were in my DNA that had not been released. And that part needed to be healed. So there was certainly that piece of it that was manifesting, right, in depression and anxiety. However, there was also a piece of that I was holding on to things longer than I needed to, and I was not letting them go. And that was causing that prolonged period, if that makes sense. So the kind of lesson in all that is that I've been able to train myself to not go to depression or anxiety. And that includes over the past 2 years in a global pandemic. So what we call this is a legacy of peace and staying calm in the chaos, and that it is available to you. Okay. Now, what Camey just shared with alternate nostril breath is probably the most powerful breath that we teach. And we call this nature's Xanax. It is the most powerful breath that I have found that I've taught clients for anxiety and depression, or excuse me, not depression, for stress and anxiety, for any like basic self-care of grounding yourself throughout the day. That is probably the number one breath that we teach. And I have taught to many, many students. The fancy name is Nadi Shidna. It's called alternate nostril breath. And yeah, I could talk all day about that. There's a whole science behind it, right? Why it works as well. And you brought up a great point, Camey, as far as the mindfulness and the one pointed focus, that when you're doing that breath, you can't really be thinking about anything else because you are 100% focused on the breath. You can't be off in other thoughts and do Nadi Shidna. Like you can't be both. So that's the point of it. right? Is it really, and it
Yeah.
really trains you to be able to train your thoughts, right? When you're training
Yeah.
yourself with your breath, you're training your thoughts and you're training your body to a mind, body, breath awareness. So there's a lot of things that are happening there. Does that make sense?
Yeah,
Yeah.
that one really, really helped me because I'm all over the place. And I think that's why like I wasn't really able to overcome anxiety just on its own with like talk therapy or mantras. And just kind of going back a little bit, I maybe about 5 or 6 years ago, I started um reading a lot of self-help books and affirmations, which were great, but I actually got really frustrated and disappointed when they weren't working. And then I saw, other people saying how they were working for them. So everything kind of made sense when I joined the program because I realized, I should be using these affirmations along with other practices at the same time to like incorporate them and make them stick. Because if you're just saying it every day, but you're not really believing it, it's not going to help. And then you just end up getting more and more disappointed. Or you might say, like I did, oh, but these just don't work for me. Like, I'm not really like attracting abundance or anything. So it actually has a reverse effect. And with that alternate nostril breath, I couldn't else. And usually my mind is in a million places at once as I have ADHD and I am like, my brain does not slow down. So that actually helps me slow down because I cannot manage that many things at one time, like the hand movements and which nostril I'm breathing out of. So that definitely brings me down into the moment.
Which is, you know what, Camey, is so funny too. When we were posting about this interview, guess what you were doing in the post, in the picture that we have of you?
Oh, yes, I saw that. Yeah.
Yeah.
Like, there's
What's the irony in that, right? Like, that's just so funny.
So funny. Yeah.
And that was not planned, by the way. That was organic. That was completely organic.
Yeah.
That was the picture we had of you at the retreat, and that was the one that we found that was the closest to, something we could post of you at the retreat. So that's kind of ironic. I just want to say that out there for people listening. That was not planned. But you are so super smart. Like, you are like genius smart, and I think that's, like you said about your ADHD, your brain, works the way it does. But many people that are super smart do have ADHD, right? Because your brain just works so fast, if that makes sense. Like, you have like a super brain, if you think about it that way. So, so tell us, as far as the framework of the course, with working with how we have like the weekly group coaching that I'm teaching in the group, and the learning management system and what that's been like to work with, and the manual or the handouts or the syllabus that you can use. Like, tell us a little bit about what that's been like for you as far as the framework of the course. In addition to, obviously, it is a hybrid. It's meant to bring people to an immersion like we did in Asheville. But I do want to say that it's not required for your certification, in case there's people that cannot travel. Like Camey traveled from New York City to North Carolina. But in case somebody out there decides to join and they're not able to travel, they don't feel comfortable traveling, it is not required for the certifications. I just wanted to say that it is meant to enhance the experience, and it's meant to enhance the training. So you want to share what kind of the framework of the training has been like for you?
Yeah. So since I did attend the retreat, it's been, I think, extra awesome because I already know everybody, almost everyone who's in the training and the weekly meetings. So like it's like a good chance to connect with everyone that I met. And, even though we don't talk all the time, like I still feel like I could literally walk into another retreat tomorrow and it would just be like, no time had passed at all. Like, it's like, hey, how are you guys and everything? Like, I wish I lived closer to everyone. And I'm always looking for an excuse to get out of New York. So or get, into a nice, beautiful place surrounded by nature. Like, that's what I was really looking forward to. But as far as like the curriculum being online in the LMS, and also, like, I did see, I have not printed it out yet, but I did see, some ladies who had the printouts. And I am planning on doing that because I kind of like the approach of you're having both options.
Mm-hmm.
It's really well put together and organized. Everything is in there. It's just so easy to like pick up on and just start and go through, and it'll tell you, when you've completed the modules. And just like I've been in some other kind of group courses and they weren't really well organized. So I never knew when the meetings were. So I was just like, unless it's like on my calendar, like I'm not going to, I wouldn't show up to the
Right.
meeting. And then it was just not very organized. Like, but this is like really well thought out. And there's really just there's no questions on like where you stand in it. It's not just a lot of videos posted in a Facebook group, like some groups I was in, and I would just get so confused because all the videos would be out of order. Like in the Facebook groups, I wouldn't know where to start. So I made my own like LMS in like a spreadsheet because I couldn't tell where anything started. So this is just really like so much went into this program. I know I think you've told me like a number of hours before, but I can't remember.
It's been, well, at this point, it's been going on over 2 years as far as like, probably going on 3 years as far as like the videos and the things that we've created, if that makes any sense. And the manual, that took months to create the manual. I mean, it's a 900-page manual that is meant to be a resource. So you do not, I don't want to scare anyone. You don't have to read the whole thing, but it is an extensive resource. And we do reference when I do teach on certain topics, when I do a video, a masterclass content, I will say, and is in the manual. And then if I create another handout in addition, I will reference it and I will reference where the handout's from. And usually majority of the time we try to do a handout with every video. It's not every single one, but I would say 90% of the time, you usually have a handout that goes with the video too, if I'm adding to it. But yeah, the LMS has been something we've worked on for a couple of years now, as far as getting that process down and how you organize the data and making it very simple to use and very, like you said, very easy to follow. So definitely a lot of time has gone into that for sure. Okay, so one last thing. We are in the process, we've got 5 days left, and we are in the process of setting up yoga psychology custom consultations. We're kind of calling them also like stress emotional resilience consultations, but it's meant to walk somebody through kind of what they're struggling with right now. Whether it be depression, anxiety, certain samskara patterns, they could be having problems in relationships, it could be trauma, it could be something going on in their career or business, to where you want to go. Like, where do you see yourself? Where do you imagine yourself in 6 or 12 months? What is it that you want to let go of? And what is it that you're ready to change? That's the most important thing about anything else, is like, what are you ready to let go of and what are you ready to change? The other reason why we do these consultations is I'm trying to see where the person is in their healing journey and how ready are they to step into a training like this, right? So if that's in alignment from a timing and energy and they are ready to make a change, they're ready to let things go, then we will have discussion about different options as far as different payment plans, and then invite them into the program. But that is why we do this process. So if you can share your experience, what was it like when you got on the phone with me to do a consultation? What was that like for people out there who, it's like, well, you've got to schedule a 30-minute call. If you're feeling called to be part of the program, you've got to schedule a consult with me, because I've got to have a conversation with you to see where you are and how can we get you, into the program financially with what works for you. So if you can kind of share that, because you and I talked about a couple of those things, when we did our consultation too.
Yeah. So when I was thinking about joining the program, I was already enrolled in a couple of other programs, and I really liked this program. I actually liked it a lot better than the other ones I was in. So I was kind of like, oh, darn, I wish I could join another program, but I just, joined these other programs. And and Jenny was able to work with me, you know, to come up with an option to pay off the program over time, which is great. And that's something, you know, that maybe all the options aren't listed on the website. But I know a lot of people, you know, need that option. And that's like, well, most of my courses I had done that with. So I was just like, oh no, now, you know, I really want to join this one. And then like, it's not in the budget, but we made it work. So it was, you know, I'm glad that I reached out, because a lot of times, you know, you'll see the price and just on the page and be like, oh no, you know, I don't want to do that or can't do that right now, and just not continue. But if you really are interested, I think you'll be able to find a way. And just the whole conversation, you know, it's not a sales pitch. It just helps you gauge where you're at and to see if you're ready, you know, and if it would benefit you. Because I would say, like, since joining the program and really working on myself, like my productivity has also like tripled, and I've been able to do a lot more things in my business. So sometimes like it's all like relative, you know, like how much can you do at work based on like, you know, how good you feel and how much you're working on your healing. So that just really helped me like make a plan to move forward. And I just felt like the benefits were just awesome. So, but the call was great. There's no pressure at all. Like, I just wanted to know, and I was the one who reached out to, like, I really wanted to know more about the program, because I was reading through the sales page and I was like, oh, this is really cool. Cause it just looked like a lot of the other programs I took, but like with yoga incorporated, like, but just in so much more detail. Like, it just had like a few of like, I saw some, like, for example, like I'd done work before, let's just say like, you know, family of origin work or something. And it was just like one course around that. But this is just a small part of the WiseMind Soul Warrior training. So it just had like everything I was interested like in, all wrapped up into one. And also like, for me personally, like a big part of my healing has been movement. So I'm always going to like different classes, like whether it be yoga, bar, just general like Zumba or those kind of like fitness classes. Because I have to be moving in order to like not feel depressed or like not feel stuck. So that just was really what did it for me, was just that combination of everything.
Yeah. Well, I am so grateful that you found us and that you found me on the Facebook, you know, in the Facebook group, and that you were able to make it to the retreat and travel for us to be able to connect in person. And that's why I like to offer that to students as part of the training, is not only us connecting in person and you experiencing that type of immersion, but also for you to make that connection with, you know, other soul sisters and making that lifelong, hopefully, relationships. And we were talking about this, some of the other interviews I've done, that it's really hard to describe the level of bonding that you make with a soul sister that is at a whole different level. And I never experienced, nor have I experienced anything like that outside of maybe, you know, it might be something church related, but for the most part, it's been in a yoga teacher training that I have experienced that level of unconditional, non-judgment, safe space, holding space for each other without judgment, and really seeing a true like healing and transformation happen. For me, that's been the most powerful experiences, and why I now run these immersions now, if that makes sense, because I want to bring that to the students that show up in Asheville, that level of transformation. So the one that we're planning at Lake Junaluska, that will mostly be in June. I'm still working on scheduling the date, but that will be a Friday and Saturday night. There'll be vegetarian options. We will be doing a fire transformation. We will be doing a retreat or a practice that will be outside at a location. It's called Inspiration Point, and it overlooks like this beautiful lake. So this conference center is like surrounded with mountains. and in the center is a giant lake. And so it's this beautiful property, and I'm so excited to teach there, especially this Inspiration Point, because they actually do weddings there, and that's where we're going to do our yoga every morning. So I wanted it to be a space where we wouldn't have to wear masks when we're doing yoga and meditation and prayer. And then we're planning, as of right now, another retreat at the Brahma Institute, which will be the vegan retreat that Camey had shared. That will be in the fall, in October. So the students that join will have their choice. If they want to, they'll have one retreat that will be part of the training, and they can choose. And then I've had some people say, well, what if I want to do both? And then we'll work something out that they can pay separately to come to both. So it really depends on what somebody's feeling drawn towards as far as the different styles, the 2 different styles that we're going to offer this year. So, and thank you so much for saying that about the consultation, because we've had multiple people say, like, they pretty much just felt like they were talking to a friend. Like you said, there is no, I'm not here to push anybody into anything that's not ready. The students that are the most successful in this program are the ones that are ready. They're ready to make a change. They're ready to do their healing, go deeper into their healing. They really want to do personal development. They want to live the highest version of themselves, or they're ready to step into leadership, whether you're a teacher or not, right? You don't have to teach traditional yoga or want to teach traditional yoga to get a lot out of this program, right? And whether you want to choose, if you do want to teach and you're feeling called to teach, it could be breath work, meditation, mindfulness, neuroscience, yoga psychology, cognitive behavioral change, right? There's many, many, many things that you can take somebody through beyond traditional, what you see somebody teaching a physical asana practice, if that makes sense. And you can do a lot of good in the world dealing with people only teaching breath work, or only teaching stress or emotional resilience, or only teaching, yoga psychology skills and journaling, right? So there's so many things that you can help other people with. You do not have to want to do anything going to this program. Many people, let's say 60%, have come in where they're looking to just do the healing and transformation. And what happens from that, they'll figure that out along the way, whether that's a year from now, but they're really looking to learn these skills and use them in their own life. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
So the last thing is, if there was someone that is out there and they're like, again, waiting to set up a consult call, I'm going to put the website in the comments. It's wisemindyoga.com, or excuse me, it's wisemindsoulwarrior.com. You can book a call there. That's the website. And then you can also book a call through WiseMind Soul Warrior. It's /book a call. So if somebody's out there and they're still like, oh, I don't know about booking a call, whatever, I'm scared, or I don't know about joining, this teacher training or whatever, what would you tell that person that's out there wavering right now? What would you say to that person?
Well, I would say if you've been considering it, thinking about it, just, wondering how learning these skills could make a positive impact on your life, then I would say definitely book the call, because not only will you get to speak to Jenny, who is awesome and really awesome to talk to, and I always feel better after talking to her. I just think it's like, you'll get that clarity, like after you speak with her, she'll go through some questions with you and just kind of help you determine if you're ready or not. I mean, if you're not, it's not the end of the world. You can always come back later and, try again when you are feeling ready. But I think just having the call will provide that clarity that you need to move forward, or not. And either way, it's okay.
Right.
It's just kind of like opening up that conversation to explore and see if it's a possibility for you. And definitely, there'll be none of those like sales tactics on the call, like we'll sign up right now. Or that's something I was always afraid of, because I really need to think things through, like before I join. Like I don't like to be pressured into stuff.
Yeah.
That actually makes it more like I won't want to do it. Like if I feel like someone's pressuring me because I have to like really make that decision. So yeah, there won't be any of that. So I say like it's definitely worth it to get some more information about it and just talk it through and see. Sometimes just getting things out there will help you like realize if it's a fit for you or not.
Yeah. And thank you so much for saying that, Camey, because Archana was actually sharing the same thing. She was like, everybody pretty much said that. She goes, there was no pressure. It's like, I'm not here to pressure people. I'm here to, again, talk about where you are now. What are you struggling with? Where do you want to go? And do we have a program that's going to help you? And are you ready to take that journey? Because the other thing I'm going to talk to you about is that we also have other self-paced programs. So maybe, the full training you're not ready for, but we have other ways for you to go through that content and material. And again, we don't have a conversation to figure out the different kind of levels that we offer. You won't know, what the different ways are that we have to support you, if that makes sense. So we have different ranges of how we can support somebody, from like a full training and meeting with me once a week and having a mentor once a month and a peer group once a month, to having a self-paced program with a Facebook group support. So the point is, we have different levels of participation and time commitment, and different levels of financial investments, right? So, starting at as little as $500. So the point is, we will work with you to figure something out of where you are and how we can support you. Does that make sense? Yeah.
Yeah.
All right. Okay. So with that, Camey, I want to say thank you so much for joining us, for spending the time and the energy to be here. And it's funny because I kind of like, I don't know if you're right now, I can't tell if you're looking.
Oh,
is she looking? Like I can't. Anyway, but I want to thank you for spending the time and energy and going outside your comfort zone, because I think we talked about this, that you're more of an ambivert, right? So you're more of an introvert, but you are an ambivert too. So you like being around people, but you're also an introvert. So I appreciate you going outside your comfort zone and being willing to support me and WiseMind, that you're here sharing your story and sharing your experience. And that really, really means a lot to me. Really, words cannot put the amount of gratitude. So thank you so much for taking your time and energy to be here to share. I really appreciate it.
Oh, yeah, I'm happy to be here. And when it comes to sharing something that really helps me, then that kind of helps, with the anxiety or, stage fright or being scared or anything like that. I definitely feel like it's worth it to let as many people as possible know about the program. So no, I'm really happy to be here. And I didn't know you couldn't see me. I could see you, but I'm still getting used to this program. So
that's okay. No, I can see you. I'll tell you. I'll tell you later. But
okay.
Yeah, this is the first time Camey has used this. So thank you so much again. I so appreciate it. And we will see you. I'm sure I'm going to talk to you this week. I'm sure later tomorrow or at some point soon. So thank you again. I'm so honored to be here to support you during this journey, and we will continue to connect as we go through this year.
Yeah,
all right. So
I wanted to mention if anybody wants to reach out to me like on Facebook or anything like that with questions about the program or anything you want to ask me personally about going through the program, feel free to reach out.
Thank you. That's sweet.
Messenger, I don't mind. I love getting messages, so it's totally fine to send me a friend request or reach out to me.
Okay, I'm going to put Camey. Thank you so much on Facebook. Feel free to reach out.
Yeah, I think I'm the only one who pops up with my name on Facebook at all. So if you just search for my name, you'll find me.
Oh, thank you. I appreciate that so much.
Oh, no worries. And I'll talk to you soon. Thanks, everybody.
Okay, girl. Thank you so much. I will talk to you soon. And everybody else, have a great day.
All right.
Bye. Yeah. Bye. Bye.